Alright, I'm on a streaming spree today. This would be the third game I've done today. I've been doing all the Half-Life games, the spin-offs specifically. I haven't done the main game intentionally. I know everybody likes the main game. We want to see Gordon Freeman, but I want to see all the others. Shoot me for being different, I guess, but I really think the spin-offs, especially opposing forces, and Blue Shift deserved a lot more attention than they got. Uh, but that's like my opinion. Here's Lost Coast. Lost Coast is a pretty awesome game. I don't really know what its place was. Pretty sure this released in 2005-ish, I think. And I think Half-Life 2 had already existed, so I'm not sure why Lost Coast exists, but maybe somebody can help clarify that up for me. Anyway, I'm ready to roll. I got the graphics cranked up all the way, and of course it's going to be easy for my modern computer to do. But let's try out the stress test and see what that's all about. Like maybe Lost Coast existed to help people see if they could even run Half-Life without buying it first. Maybe that's why it exists. But let's see. Let's see if I can run Half-Life. Half-Life 2. I already know I can. But here it is. This was the peak. Alright, we can hear what the dev commentary has to say. So um we could hear that while we play. Yeah. But this was peak graphics in that time period. I think game even ran amazingly well on my old laptop back then. Um I think the first time I played this was on an old Satellite Pro, or it was a P502, I think was the model number. Um, Toshiba Satellite laptop back then. One of my oldest YouTube videos, with the Hunter attack from episode 2, I think Half-Life episode 2.
Let me just unlock this gate for you.
Um, I believe I recorded that when I first played through that a long time ago. That's probably one of my oldest YouTube videos. That
Got the
needs to be
key
put in
right
the
here.
Half-Life playlist that I've created recently.
Destroy that gun.
It's amazing what they've done here. This game is only like 400 megabytes, I think. 400 or 500 megabytes. Somehow. I don't know how it's that small. I've noticed lately my playthroughs of the Half-Life games, they've been remarkably small. The overall game size file. Um, like, I believe Opposing Forces was only like 500 or 600 megabytes. Don't quote me on that exact number, but less than a gig for a 5 hour long game. And I guess I could have done it faster if I didn't die so much. But here comes the headcrab canisters. I love the scaffolding and all the little objects up there. I've been dancing around the main Half-Life games. Got a neat little shader there on the window. I'm using wires to hang those whatever those are from the ceiling. Got a combine ziplining in. There's a helicopter. So sure, upload the results to Valve. I don't know if it is relevant anymore. Notice on this let's go ahead and start a new game. Let's start it up and play through it. This is a really short Half-Life title. So, I could probably fly through it in 30 minutes, maybe. I'm gonna take my time, look at all the commentary nodes and such. And I wake up on the beach, and I'm greeted immediately with a commentary node. Looks like I got some weapons. Let's use the revolver. I don't have a crosshair, strangely enough. Let's see. There it is. There's that giant crosshair. Shows health on one side, ammo on the other. Um, anyway.
Hi, this is Gabe Newell, and
Hi,
welcome
Gabe.
to the Lost Coast.
Gabe in.
In this tour, we're going to be talking about a new graphics technology we've been developing called High Dynamic Range, or HDR.
Oh, that's why this exists.
We'll also be giving you some insight into the design and production challenges we faced during the construction of the Lost Coast. First, a quick explanation of the commentary system. To listen to a commentary node, put your crosshair over the floating commentary symbol and press your use key.
I'd
To
figured that
stop
out.
the commentary, put your crosshair over the rotating node and press your use key again. Some commentary nodes may take control of the game for the purpose of showing something to you. In these cases, simply pressing your use key will stop the commentary.
Roger, roger. Our Lord and Savior, Gabe Newell.
With conventional rendering, seen here on the left, if something on the screen is 20% reflective, like the wet sand, then the maximum reflected brightness can only be 20% of the maximum brightness of your monitor.
Eat your heart out,
HDR's
RTX.
more accurate simulation of light ensures that the sun's reflection on this wet sand appears as it would in the real world, which could potentially use 100% of the maximum monitor brightness. HDR uses bloom to simulate light that is beyond 100% of a monitor's maximum brightness.
Okay. Well, I know RTX and HDR are totally different technologies. Can't compare the two.
When the art team started to think about a location that would demonstrate the power of HDR, a beach was one of the first choices we made. The visual relationship between the sky, the water, and the rocks is something we could not achieve without HDR. In order for high dynamic range to correctly simulate the light's interaction with the surfaces around you, like these wet rocks, we needed more precise information about the surfaces than we've had in the past. And now going forward, we're modeling textures in 3D packages to ensure that the physical information encoded in the texture allows HDR to correctly bounce light off the surface. We also designed the colors and values of each surface to ensure they will be correct across all exposure levels.
That's cool. Let's hear this one before I walk too close to that guy and trigger his dialogue.
The process of building characters in Half-Life 2 taught us many things. By the end, we believed we'd figured out a more effective process for designing and constructing characters. This fisherman is the first character we built using that process. Design-wise, the fisherman was focused on showcasing HDR and the way light falls on human skin. The highlights on his forehead and nose are good examples of specularity on human skin. You can see how the wrinkles on his cheeks and around his eyes are an example of how we can use normal maps to add depth. Production-wise, the fisherman was built using a similar process to the rocks you saw on the beach. We model the 3D character at a very high detail, then extract much of the physical information and store it in the textures.
Hey! You there? Wait a minute now, aren't you? You are. You're that scientist chap, Friedman.
Friedman?
Fishman. Am I right?
Fisherman.
You must be here to take on the Combine.
And your father,
Not
fisherman.
sure what one man can do, but no other reason to visit St. Olga at a time like this. I'll take you to where they made their base, or as far as I can, at any rate.
Father Grigori sounds a lot like Father Grigori from Half-Life 2. I'm trying to plug my headset in, forget it.
Water presents us with a lot of rendering challenges. In fact, we have to render the scene 3 times. Once for the refraction of what's under the water, once for the reflection of everything above the water, and once from the player's view. You can see the reflection and refraction scenes in the 2 small windows on screen. In the refraction, we calculate per pixel how much water you're looking through to do a volumetric underwater fog to simulate particulate matter. For our full HDR solution, we had to go through the entire engine and modify every bit of code that calculated light and color. For example, these water reflection and refraction renderings had to be improved to support the full range of contrast values.
Here, now let me just unlock this gate for you. Got the key right here. There we go. Get along now, laddie. Destroy that gun and no dawdling.
So, is this like Gordon Freeman just woke up on the beach? One of his little missions before Half-Life 2? Let's pretend that is. I don't know if this how canon this is. Did he count down the grenade? I think he did. Oh crap. I could have shot him a lot sooner. Whoa. Whoa! Ow.
The area you're currently entering is called the Cliffside Arena. We were particularly happy with the vertical cliffside in Half-Life 1 and regretted that we didn't iterate further on that concept in Half-Life 2. Vertical space allows us to force the player to deal with threats from above and below. We find that players focus their view on the direction they're traveling, so by using a cliffside and having the player ascend it, we ensure that the player will look up and be prepared for enemies. If the player's path was to move past the bottom of the cliffside, it would be unlikely he would notice soldiers rappelling down from above. And dying from unknown threats never feels fair, and certainly isn't fun.
Ammunition depleted.
Yeah, definitely see that head creeping.
Depleted.
Yeah, Half-Life 2 is definitely easier than the other Half-Life. Might be able to up the difficulty. It's more interesting to see me die. Are we going to talk about HDR again?
One of the features of our HDR solution is dynamic tone mapping. The easiest way to think about dynamic tone mapping is that it's a method of simulating the way the human eye reacts to light. In the real world, you've probably walked into a dark room and noticed your eye adjusting to the darkness, letting you see better after some time. Or you've walked out into a bright day and been blinded by the sun, only to have your eye adjust and allow you to see normally. Your iris is adjusting itself in response to the amount of light hitting your eye. Dynamic tone mapping simulates this by automatically adjusting the exposure of the scene to mimic the behavior of your iris. You can see this as the view moves from the dark tunnel to the bright sun and back again. Here, you can see the way we calculate the amount of light hitting the player's eyes. We take a snapshot of the scene, measure the brightness levels, and then use that to adjust exposure. We consider light at the center of the screen more important than at the edges to better simulate the geometry of the eye.
It's cool when they show me something like that. Courtyard.
The courtyard in front of you is a space we call an arena. Arenas are built to hold the player for a period of time and usually contain combat or some other challenge. They often have multiple entry points for enemies, along with a gate of some kind to prevent the player moving on until the challenge has been completed. In this case, the arena is free of enemies until the player solves a puzzle and triggers an alarm. This is a method that allows the player to explore the arena and get a sense of its space before being forced to fight in it. It adds a sense of uneasiness to the player, who's expecting to be attacked now that they've reached the goal set for them at the start of the map. The break in the action here is also a crucial part of the level's pacing. It allows the player to recover and explore the world a little after being attacked on the way up the cliffside.
Will I die if I fall in there? I'm totally curious. Totally curious. I'm gonna jump in the well. Oh, I can't. Oh well. That'd been funny if I could fall a ridiculously long distance and die. Let's see what that one
The
says.
Source engine supports a wide variety of shaders. The refraction shader on the window here requires us to copy the scene to a texture, refract it, and then apply it to the window surface. To fully support HDR, every shader in the engine needed to be updated. So this refraction shader was improved to support the full range of contrast. If you viewed the sun through this window, it would be refracted correctly.
Alright, it would be refracted correctly. That's assuming no mods have come up. Or no issues have come up from... Notice every time it fires, yeah, I remember those kind of bounce when the cannon fires. Cannon. Yeah, see they wiggle. Wiggle.
We wanted to transition from a bright, wide open space into a tighter, closed one to showcase HDR's dynamic tone mapping. We also like to focus on contrasting elements in our settings, like ancient human architecture and futuristic combine technology. A monastery fit these requirements perfectly. Monasteries are generally isolated, unlit, and built ages ago. They provide a great backdrop for the contrasting combine technology. When we build fictional settings, we try to ground them by basing them off a real-world location. We use these locations as a design constraint that forces a logical consistency behind the art choices. Churches are great dramatic spaces. They're often lit naturally with extremes of darkness and brightness, which makes them a great showcase for HDR. Gothic churches are the sober monochromatic spaces that you've seen in almost every horror movie or game. Byzantine churches, on the other hand, are very colorful and have a large variety of materials. We wanted that color and material variety to show off our HDR reflections.
Some painting that... I don't know.
Our games are filled with things we call gates, which are essentially just challenges that the player must overcome to drive the experience forward. We used a puzzle here since the player has been through combat and exploration recently. When we design challenges, we try to ensure that the player's goal and the action required by the player are both fun. It's not hard to create interesting goals for the player, like stopping this machine from shelling the nearby village, but the action required by the player to solve the challenge needs to be fun as well. So instead of something menial, such as hitting an off switch, the player gets to use physics to jam the gun's mechanism and cause it to break.
That surely is fun. Get to break something. Oh! For some reason I thought that was a head crab for a moment. Even though I literally just placed that there. Oh, got a gunship. Shot out the windows. Cool. See the shadow of the gunship, or see it reflected out there through the window. Yeah, definitely when I do my Half-Life 2 playthrough, I'm gonna do it on a harder difficulty than easy. It'll look more interesting. Why would I wait here? Seems like I should leave.
This marks the end of the Lost Coast tour. This has been an experiment on our part to see if our community would find it interesting to learn more about our development process.
Absolutely.
As
dude.
always, we're interested in your feedback. I can be reached at gaben, Gaben, at valvesoftware.com. If people like this, we'll keep producing this kind of content for all of our games going forward.
We absolutely
Thanks for listening.
love this. Please keep it coming. That was cool. I liked how it crashed. Crashed into this, which opened up the way through. Absolutely love Half-Life. Definitely should do the other games too that I haven't done yet. Oh!
Good.
Good. He said good. Thanks. He didn't really like me, I guess. I better stay crouched. This is a little bit buggy. If I Boop the wall.
You did it, lad. Come on with me to St. Olga. We'll celebrate this victory with a feast. I hope you like leeches. Hey, where you going?
Bye.
You're getting fuzzy around the edges. Well, I guess you got other places to be. Nice knowing ya.
Thank you. That was a great little playthrough. But thanks for watching. Maybe I'll do Half-Life 2 now. I already have a Black Mesa playthrough, but it doesn't have any commentary to it, and it's from before the Zen update, so maybe I'll do an updated playthrough of that, or play Half-Life Source instead, or the original release of Half-Life. Who knows what I'll do next. Not me. But anyway, thanks for watching if you watched. I hope you enjoyed this, and please comment, like, subscribe, you know, the whole line you've heard a million times.